everyone. So I'm Claire. I'm a dietitian at the Great North Children's Hospital. So I work in paediatric and adult metabolics. So today I've been invited to speak about my experience of using GMP in a pregnant PKU patient. So first off, I just wanted to do a pit stop on the guidance, which I'm sure you're all very, very aware of, on the importance of keeping a very strict diet in pre-con and in pregnancy to avoid maternal PKU syndrome. So we have our guidance levels of keeping within 120, 360. And as you know, for these women, a lot of them have relaxed their diet, might have completely gone off their diet. So it's a big ask to ask them to get back into those Phe levels and also maintain that all the way through pregnancy. They can get down very quickly, but keeping it for that whole pregnancy it can be tough going. So because we're talking about the use of GMP, and specifically the use of PKU sphere, I think it's important to look at the guidelines and touch on that too for the sphere guidelines. So we've had lots of presentations so far. We know it's a GMP-based protein substitute. We know that it's got Phe in it. And the guidelines do say that we should be introducing it very cautiously and under careful supervision during pregnancy. And in pregnancy. Okay, so let's launch into my patient. She's a 30-year-old. So she called me up and said, well, she didn't just have one, she had several pregnancy tests with 2 blue lines, saying, I think I'm pregnant. I think I'm probably about 6 weeks pregnant. She had one previous pregnancy, who's a 2-year-old daughter who, as far as I'm aware, growing and developing very normally. So at time of her call, I was a bit worried because although she was engaged with the service, it was a patient that I knew relatively well. She was on a very relaxed diet, so there wasn't any supplement, although she did have some at home, which was in date, thank goodness. She was having dairy foods within her diet, her little cow there. She wasn't having any meat and fish. She wasn't using low-protein products, and her Phe in clinic the month before had been sitting between 900 and 1,000, so far from ideal and far exceeding that 360 top range for pregnancy. So my initial plan was stop taking protein, please. Any form of protein, we need to get you back on a very strict diet. So with her, actually, she was fortunate that she lives relatively close to the hospital and could come in and see me, so we could take her Phe levels. She had been on the diet before when she was pregnant with her daughter. She knew what to do, so it was quite easy to get her in the zero exchanges, get her a quick delivery of the low-protein food, and get her back on the supplement that she was taking previously with her last daughter. So she was taking 60 grams of protein substitute a day. Now, it was all fine. It was all very plain sailing, and things were all going to plan, until I got a very panicked call when she was 20 weeks pregnant with, I can't do this. I can't do this. I feel sick. I feel absolutely rubbish. I'm having this awful time. And she was in such a state that I said, okay, can you get to hospital this afternoon? Let's just go through everything with you. So she was managing her supplement. She was an extremely anxious patient. She knew how important it was to keep her levels low during pregnancy. She was very motivated, despite falling pregnant off of diet. She knew the importance of it. She was managing the full supplement, but she was doing it in some novel way. She was holding her nose, she was having some flat Coke beside her and taking swigs of each. So she wasn't in a good place. her Phe levels were fine, actually. They were sitting a little bit on the low side at point that she came in to see me. So they were sitting around 100 to 143. She was on 17 grams of protein a day as exchanges. So the master plan was to, after some reassurance, I gave her lots of different supplements to try. She'd heard of the GMP, she'd heard of the Sphere through the Facebook groups and said, this looks quite good. So that was included. And at this point, she was just so anxious and so worried that I just really wanted to get her established in something that she could manage and tolerate and take the full dose. So she called me actually later that day before I went home. All right, you've done it, Claire, brilliant. The Sphere's it, that's perfect, I'll start taking that. Now 3 a day, yes? And I was like, oh, no, calm down. I was aware that it contained a level of Phe within it, so wanted a bit more of a gradual switchover. So we did come to a little bit of a compromise, which was if she gave me twice weekly blood results, and they were relatively okay, we'd get her onto her full dose of this 60 grams of protein substitute within 3 weeks, switching them out, quite like Justin did, one by one, with the plan. And I'm glad to say that that did go to plan. And it worked relatively well. So as you see here, I've just got some tables of what her levels were. So in the first week, we put in the Sphere, and she managed to keep going with her regular protein substitute during that time. And actually on her second blood level, it'd gone to 96. So it actually, as well as her having the second Sphere that week, I also put in an exchange, so she was up to 18 grams a day. Week 2, when she was 22 weeks pregnant, she went on to her 2 Sphere, and she was having one of her regular protein substitute. And again, the levels were really good. I maybe could have gone, in retrospect, maybe could have gone up exchanges at this point, but I thought, let's just keep her where she is and put in the final GMP supplement. So there we go. She was on all 3, very happy bunny, and her Phe levels were still very good. And her second level, when she was on the 3 supplements, was 112. So at that point, she went up 2 exchanges and she was on 20 grams of protein a day. So for the rest of her pregnancy, I'm pleased to say that there were no other problems with nausea and sickness. She was managing the supplement absolutely beautifully and had lots of compliments about it, as well as easing her anxiety. She also found it very easy to make and kind of have on the go, especially later on during her pregnancy when she was very heavily pregnant and running around after her daughter. She said it was very easy to take out and about with her and make up. So it worked well for her. So she had a short break from diet after the birth of her baby, but since she's continued with her diet and using Sphere as her supplement, which was great. I just thought this was an interesting table to put up because it shows the motivation that these ladies have during pregnancy and how quickly they can get their levels down. So you can see here, this was her first pregnancy. This was in between, and this was her second pregnancy here where she was using the GMP. So extremely motivated group of women to work with. So going into my experience of it, really, it showed me that Sphere can be used successfully during pregnancy. And for this patient, it really did aid compliance with her diet. She was at the point, at that appointment where she turned up at 20 weeks, she came with her husband and both grannies, and they were all in tears, and they were having an awful time, and to give them something that worked for her, I think it just eased the anxiety for the whole family. For me, when I was going back through this case study and picking up on the levels and going back through her notes, I thought, do you know, could I have introduced this a little bit quicker? Do you know, was 3 weeks and doing this one in and one out? Could I have gone any quicker? She certainly would have wanted me to. She would have switched overnight if I'd let her. So I think that was it for me. Could I have done that any quicker, having twice weekly blood results? I don't know. Maybe discussion for another time. But certainly for this patient, it did ease her anxiety. She found it very easy to make up and take, and she continued taking it following the birth of her healthy baby boy.